Today we're going to go over the anatomy and some cues for downward facing dog. This was a viewer submitted question from a yoga teacher, so thanks for that. And this is part of a series I'm doing all this week, the week of August 17th, 2026. Now I just want to give you just a little tip here as you're consuming these videos, especially if you've watched more than one. These videos, while I am of course speaking to the anatomy and how to apply it to movement, are not meant to replace actually learning the fundamentals. So these videos are not designed for you to take what I'm saying and go out there and repeat it, because in that case, you're just repeating it. In order to get to the point where you actually understand the anatomy, you need to go through learning the fundamentals. I love doing these videos where I share the anatomy behind a pose, but you need to get to that point in a defined process of learning. What are joint movements? How do muscles work? How do I identify the muscles that are concentrically contracting in the pose? None of which I'm explaining in these videos because I'm just giving you a snippet. These videos are designed to find the yoga teacher who watches them and says, oh man, I want to be this kind of teacher who truly understands the why behind my cues. I want to be the kind of teacher who truly understands anatomy and isn't repeating stuff. I love these videos and they give me such inspiration and motivation to take that next step to invest in a program to learn the anatomy. And so of course I have a program to do that. There are other programs out there, but I just wanted to give you that context rather than having you watch these videos and then say, oh, okay, well I learned it. I'm gonna go out there and just repeat what Karen said in the video. It's not meant for that. But I do hope when you watch them, you will be inspired to learn the full picture. And I can tell from a lot of the comments I'm getting that there are a handful of teachers that are really getting this level of motivation. And I'm seeing people comment, yeah, I'm thinking of enrolling in your program, or, I'm really getting more interested in taking that next step to learn the fundamentals of anatomy. So I wanted to give you that context as you're consuming the videos. So for downward facing dog, there are a number of joint movements, as there are in all the yoga poses. But the idea here in these videos, again, is to focus on maybe one really important part. And here for down dog, the really important part is shoulder movement. So shoulder movement in downward dog is the shoulder moving into flexion as well as external rotation. Flexion and external rotation. But the problem is that the palms are pronated. And when the palms are pronated, i.e. facing the floor, what's the tendency of the person? Well, to internally rotate. So you need to understand, well, the joint movement in down dog is external rotation, even though the palms are pronated, and you need to be watching your students to look for the telltale signs that they are internally rotating, which looks like hunching. So how can you cue them? Well, the first thing is you need to understand what are the muscles of external rotation and where are they and how can I speak to them in my cue so that it's easy for people to understand. So the two primary muscles of external rotation of the shoulder are the teres minor and infraspinatus, which are connecting the scapula to the humerus. The infraspinatus is this whole bottom part over to here. The teres minor is a smaller muscle, same direction. They are synergists, collaborators. They do the same joint action when they concentrically contract. And they create external rotation because of their placement on the posterior chain and because of their insertion on the humerus. So now that you have that background, how would you cue to them? Because nobody's going to know infraspinatus and teres minor. So what you could say is something like, open your shoulders. Press your heart forward, roll your shoulders open, roll your biceps to the outer walls, roll the inner eyes of the elbows forward. Any of those things will work, but you need to be watching them. So get off your mat, stop practicing with them, say the cue, and see what they do. But I want you to see the magic of this, and I hope you're having an aha moment, that sure, you can say it, but there's a difference between just saying it and actually understanding the why behind the cue. And now I've given you that complete package. One other aspect of the pose, and there are other ones, but one other aspect I want to share is the movement in the hips. So the hips are in flexion, adduction, and internal rotation. And a lot of people complain about weight in the wrists, pressure in the wrists, wrist discomfort, and it's because they're not using their legs. So to get them to use their legs and take some of the weight back into the big muscles of the legs, when they're in downward facing dog, have them put a block between their thighs. They'll naturally contract the adductors to keep the block there, but cue them to roll the inner thighs back. That will activate the tensor fasciae lata, which is an internal rotator on the lateral aspect of the hip. And that will get them into their leg musculature, which will save their wrists. I hope this was helpful. If you have questions, go ahead and post them in the comments. Thanks for watching.